Good afternoon from the middle of nowhere in Croatia. I'm about to head across to the town of Imotski to check out quite a special stadium called Our Lady Dolac Stadium, where it is host to the local team Imotski FC. And what's special about the stadium, you might ask? Well, it's probably one of the most spectacular stadiums possibly in the world. Certainly, I think a lot of people have visited it for that reason, as it's built into the mountains, or just next to the mountains, and just next to one of the deepest lakes in the world. So I thought I'd go and check out Our Lady Dolac Stadium. So in a moment, we'll be heading across to the town in the distance there, Imotski, to go and have a look at the stadium. And I actually got in contact with the secretary of the stadium, or the football club that plays there, Imotski FC, and he said, sure, come along and have a look at the stadium. But also tonight, there's a game on. Saturday, 5 o'clock kickoff, which is probably in about 30-40 minutes. So in a minute, I'm going to get back in the car and head over to Imotski to try and catch this game and see what a lower league Croatian football match is like in one of the most beautiful stadiums in the world. But yeah, before I head across to Our Lady Dolac Stadium, I've stopped in the middle of nowhere, not for no reason, but I've come to just next to a small town called Zmijavci. I probably said that slightly wrong. But on the corner of the road is quite a curious monument. Now, in many parts of the world, there's many spectacular monuments to all sorts of things. War monuments, monuments to famous people, monuments to historical events that have taken place throughout the ages, monuments to literally anything. But here in the middle of nowhere in Croatia, we've got a very important roadside monument. It is the Frog Monument. And well, somewhat disappointingly, at least in the photos I saw, it was supposed to be spitting out water into this fountain, but the frog has run dry, as they say. So what possibly could this frog monument symbolise here in the middle of nowhere in Croatia? Well, I did a quick bit of internet research, and apparently for the last 17 years or so, every year, there is a frog festival that's held here. And it honours people from times gone by who, at least according to the translation of this article, would have gorged on frogs, eaten a whole bunch of frogs. So in honour of that, and in honour of that history, they've put our friend Froggy Monument here, who apparently weighs 2.5 tons. Well, when this monumental monument was erected in 2022, it was such a big event, some of the townsfolk came out to mark the occasion. The fountain would have been switched on and water would have been spewing from Froggy McFroggle's mouth there. And yeah, it was a big event. They even got the local priest down to bless McFroggles there. But we'll say goodbye to our curious froggy friend. And maybe one day, probably not, we'll come back in July and take part in the Zmijavci Frog Cult Festival and gorge on some frogs, if indeed that's what happens here. Anyway, we've got a football game to get off to, so let's head over to Imotski and our wonderful stadium of Our Lady Dolac and watch a football game. Let's go. We've just arrived at the town of Imotski, and we've gone for the usual super official parking spot after a little windy drive up to the top of the hill where the stadium's located. And I think I've seen a few people heading in the direction of the stadium. So I'm going to walk down here and see if we can find it. Right, and emerged out of nowhere. We've arrived at our stadium. There it is. Well, I was rushing up the hill with 9 minutes to go to kick off, thinking I better get a move on, but I think I'm going to have an issue getting a seat. But let's see how we navigate getting a ticket. Dobar dan. How do I get a ticket? How much?
€3.
€3. Okay. Yes. I'm guessing it's cash only.
Yes.
No cards. Okay. Is there an ATM somewhere I can go?
I don't know.
Okay. Don't worry. I'll find one on my map and I come back. Okay. What time does the game start?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Thank you. Okay, well, rather stupidly, I didn't come with any euros to actually buy a ticket, thinking I might be able to get away with using my card, but not the case, as the ticket costs a mere €3. So I'm going to go and hunt for an ATM in the town of Imotski, see if we can come back. And the game does kick off at 5, so better hurry up. I spy with my little eye. Adeco Bank. We found one. It's just a few minutes away from the stadium. This town's full of little surprises. Let's get some cash. Success, cash. Let's go and get our ticket. Hey. Thanks. Voila.
€1.
Yeah.
And cards.
Voila. Thank you.
Možete.
I can go anywhere?
Yes.
Thanks. Well, we literally just made kickoff, as you heard the whistle go there. And our game is in swing. And well, I asked the chap on the gate there if I could sit anywhere. Probably another stupid question, as the stadium's pretty empty. But just look at this setting in amongst the cliffs. Got a little ruins of what looks like some sort of fort with the Croatian flag on the top there. Seating for I think about 3,000 on the left side. And a game of football in still some late evening or early evening Croatian sun. Well, we're about halfway into the second half, and I have to be honest, there hasn't been a lot to shout about here at our Lady Dolac Stadium. And well, even if there was, there probably wouldn't be too much of a roaring noise as of our 3,000 capacity stadium. There's maybe about 100, 200 people here for the opening game of Croatia's 4th division. In fact, it's 1-0 to the other team who scored earlier in the first half. And really, there's been very precious little else other than that to shout about. But that's not what I came. I came not for the beautiful game this time, but for the beautiful stadium. Disappointingly, I've not found anyone selling any beer or anything in the stadium. And at €3 for a ticket entry into today's game, you'd think they would try and make a bit more money off some beer sales. And well, I withdrew €40 from the ATM round the corner, hoping I might be able to buy some snacks and some beer. From what I've seen of some of the other spectators, it very much seems like it's a bring your own spectacle. And if I'd known that, I would have packed a couple of beers and brought them with me. Not to worry. Well, if you couldn't afford the €3 price tag to come into today's game, you can do what some of the locals have done around here. If I zoom in a bit, you can stand next to a house up there or what looks like the ruins of a house and watch from the side, or head on up to the medieval fortress and peer on over the edge up there instead. Plenty of options at the Lady Dolac Stadium. Well, back home in England in the Premier League, you'd have quite a few stewards. In fact, most match games are quite the security operation, and many tens of thousands spent on policing and stewards around the stadium to control the crowds. And of course, they would be sat around the stadium facing the audiences to try and spot any trouble or any troublemakers. But here in Lady Dolac, we've got just the one security guard over my shoulder who's, well, he's enjoying the game. And why not? There's not much trouble here, to be honest. Well, that was the final whistle at our game here at Lady Dolac Stadium, and Imotski lost 1-0, unfortunately, their opening game of the season. Not how you mean to go on. Wasn't exactly a classic, but nonetheless, a pretty epic game of football, given the environment in which I watched it. Well, just behind me is our medieval fortress, which sits just behind the stadium, which you can see a bit of. And then if I turn around, the sun is setting just behind our cliffs. We're about to lose some light. And on the other side of the fortress, I'll try not to fall off here, as that would be less than ideal. We have what would be the Blue Lake, or as you can see, a tiny little bit of it left, because in late summer it pretty much almost all drains away or evaporates away, and then later in the year this will fill back up again. You can see from some of the markings on the side how far up the water does come, and this later in the year will be one of the deepest lakes in Europe. We're just walking through the passageway of our medieval fortress. You might be able to see just behind me there our Croatian flag, and if you really want a bird's eye view of our stadium, then you can come up here just behind the stadium seats and get a proper bird's eye of the game. Well, just before I leave our lovely town of Imotski, I've stopped just to the side of the road to see another stone monument. Perhaps not quite as epic as our stone frog that we saw earlier, but equally this one has an interesting story behind it. And here we have a life-size stone monument or carving of a Mercedes vehicle just on the edge of the town, and apparently this serves as a reminder from people who came from the town of Imotski and went to work in Germany many years ago, and went to work in the factories manufacturing Mercedes vehicles, and this commemorates the people who went to Germany as a symbol of success, because they came back and brought back a Mercedes car with them as a symbol of their hard work. So to commemorate that, in the tiny Croatian town of Imotski, we have immortalized in stone a Mercedes-Benz vehicle on the side of the road. But hey, that concludes our journey here in Imotski. We've seen the Our Lady Dolac Stadium and a stone frog, which symbolises a cult following of people who gorge on frogs once a year. Or possibly that story's been slightly lost in translation, but I like my version of it because it sounds more interesting. But anyway, thanks for watching and thanks for joining us in Imotski. On to the next adventure next time.